Good evening, everyone. Let me introduce you to the team. Axel, Juan, Candelaria, Mauro, and myself, Agustin. We are going to present our analysis and recommendation from Central Puerto. Let us enlighten you in our investment thesis. Central Puerto is a power generation company with a well-diversified asset portfolio operating in Argentina's market. After developing a valuation model, we arrived to a target price of $7.10, which represents a 75% upside from the closing price of December 10. Our recommendation is based in 4 pillars: transitory undervalued market, stable and hedged income, strong competitive position, and solid financial situation. Now, we are carrying you in our valuation highlights.
First, transitory undervalued market. Argentina's economy has always been volatile, but this last year has exceeded this trend, and uncertainty has surrounded the business environment. The unexpected results in primary elections in August 2019 caused a dramatic fall in the capital market. A left-wing party led by Alberto Fernandez had defeated the former Macri president, causing an abrupt fall of 50% in the market index. However, we believe that this fall was purely due to bad expectations and uncertainty, and as soon as the new government defines the path related to debt restructure and economic policy, uncertainty will vanish, and the market will tend to its normal value again. As a big picture, we can also see the price-earnings ratio, seeing that the current ratio is well below its historical mean, which leads us into the conclusion that the company is underpriced. Our second pillar is stable and hedged income. First, I'll describe briefly the industry, and then my partner is going to describe the revenue composition. The industry is formed by 3 chapters: generation, transmission, and distribution. There's also a non-profit organization called CAMESA, which is in charge of the dispatch operations, setting the remuneration scheme, and it also supervises the generators to buy first according to their efficiency levels. Axel is going to explain.
Central Puerto revenue is linked to US dollar exchange rate, which ensures a natural hedge from local currency depreciation. Availability remuneration is their main source of income and depends on how much installed capacity is offered for dispatch, which is paid monthly by CAMESA. Several renewable and thermal projects are expected to be fully operational by mid-2020, increasing the company capacity by 20%. These projects are under power purchase agreements, which ensures stable cash flows and mitigates the risks from the standard remuneration scheme, where CAMESA sets the prices.
Now, let's go see the strong competitive position that CEPU has. With different types of power generation, CEPU is the second largest power generation in Argentina. And without the 3 competitors, they represent 65% of market share. The company's principal competitor is Pampa Energía, which has 2 main business units: power generation and distribution and transportation of energy services. This last business unit is highly exposed to adverse political measures. We can also add that the debt to EBITDA ratio is worse. The second peer is Central Costanera. This company is 5 times smaller compared to CEPU. It has only plants in Buenos Aires, and it's only listed in the local market. The last peer is AES Argentina, which is a not-listed company, it has less installed capacity, and it doesn't have future projects in their pipeline. Finally, we have made an analysis by the relative valuation approach, and we have taken into consideration different markets: developed, emerging, and Argentina. And as we can see in the table, no matter what market we are taking into consideration, CEPU is underneath its fair value.
Now we will talk about corporate governance. The company's board of directors is formed by 11 members and the same number of deputies, complying with the 1/3 required of independent directors by company's policy. Although CEPU has a solid corporate governance structure, there are some issues regarding the committees that must be addressed in order to comply with new local policies. Finally, we will develop our last pillar to buy, solid financial situation. In the valuation model, we develop a DCF analysis in a free cash flow to the firm approach. Taking into consideration high macroeconomic uncertainty and lack of predictability, we projected 4 different scenarios in order to consider a wide range of possible situations. As we can see in the table, we projected how these variables project in each macroeconomic scenario, from a crisis scenario, slow recovery, steady recovery, and all the way to a fast recovery. The variables taken into account were renewable energy market growth, decreasing the market share for thermal generation, reduction of remuneration for available capacity and power generated, CAPEX EBITDA ratio. The actual for the company is 10%. Average reversal speed of WACC. With a classic KPM model, we arrived to a WACC of 22%, tending to an 11% in the long run. Each scenario has a different speed of normalization. And finally, the long-term growth for the terminal value. Considering Argentina's current macroeconomic situation, we assign bigger weights to pessimistic scenarios, as we can see in the table, for the evaluation of the financial analysis.
When we say a solid financial situation is a pillar, we have 4 drivers to come to this conclusion. The first one is, even though GDP has been shrinking, a normalization is expected, and it results in revenue growth. The second pillar is, despite high debt reduction, the company will manage to generate positive cash flow even under an unstable macroeconomic environment. The other, CEPU's EBITDA margins has grown irregular since 2017. The launch of the new thermal generation power next year will increase the operation cost, reducing it. However, Argentina peso depreciation will continue. A real term growth reduction will be compensating of the EBITDA margin driving forecast to recover. And the last one, deterioration of the credit market inhibits the company of the sector to take and develop new projects, and CEPU is not an exception. Low leverage ratios and high EBITDA margins show that the company does not suffer damage and will be able to take on the opportunities that the market could eventually offer.
High uncertainty of future scenarios led us to state certain risks the evaluation model did not consider. Exchange rate split, deposit freeze, and expropriations were measures taken by previous populist administrations. However, we assign this a low probability of occurrence. Industry-wise, the cease of CAMESA's payment, the cut of subsidies, and the deterioration of transmission networks may affect companies' normal operations. Finally, business-wise, the dilution of an investment program and the breakdown of CEPU's units are some issues that may arise.
We believe that the main drivers that would lead CEPU to its intrinsic value are soaring debt restructuring, which is expected to materialize in the following months, driving the country risk premium to their long-term levels. Second, the incoming administration has stated that consumption subsidies will be their main plan for economic recovery, and this will lead to an increase in energy demand. And last, the solid financial situation and their dollar-linked revenue makes Central Puerto a great investment opportunity.
So, after developing an exhaustive analysis of the company, analyzing all the variables, and stressing all our scenarios, we arrived to a very conclusive result. Only by assigning a 90% under the crisis scenario and reducing 50% the thermal generation remuneration, our recommendation would change. So we are very confident we are a strong buy recommendation. Now, we encourage you to power on into CEPU because this lightning path has just begun. Thank you very much, and we are open for any questions you have.
I have a question regarding the PPAs that you mentioned on the presentation. Trying to understand better what would be the financial sources of this company given all the restrictions that you have in the market, the access to the market here or abroad. Can you say a word about that, how the companies would be able to finance all the PPAs that
well, they have several loans that they acquired that, well, we say that the company is low leverage, but these PPA contracts, they can develop them. Okay, yes. and they have several project finance when they can develop this kind of projects, and they are ready to place.
This project we mentioned, they are all they will be fully operational in mid-2020. This can be already financed.
And we believe that as the crisis is already occurring, the company stand in the future projects, expecting the economy to recover, and then can take on new projects. Because in the evaluation model, we stated that the WACC for the long term would be reduced, giving the company more probability for refinancing.
Have you had the opportunity to revise the multiple in comparison with the previous crisis in Argentina? Because this is a listed company in the last 10 years.
Yes.
We went through many crises. Do you have the opportunity to compare the multiples?
Yes. We have made first a relative valuation approach, taking into consideration different countries. We have weighted according to the market cap to each company, comparing it with different criteria of installed capacity, power generation, and market share that these companies have in each of their countries. And we have made an analysis taking this is forward, present forward, but we have taken the last 12 months and the ratio, and we have compared it with historical media, and we have seen that the ratio is underneath its historical media. Sorry.
In addition, I would like to add that the company is not the same as in previous crises. The last few years it had grown in an exponential rate, and we believe once the crisis is solved, it will continue to grow.
Sorry, I was there in the last crisis, and the market became irrational. And many times, having this measurement of comparison with some irrational times is a good way of look at extreme situations where you don't have rationality in terms of expected forward earnings and multiply.
Yes,
the presentation is very good.
Thank you very much. But we also believe that we'll analyze that due to how the industry works, we have almost 80% of fixed income corresponding to available capacity and PPA contracts. So that gives the future, the company, a more projectable future in the crisis scenario.
We have made, in our crisis scenario, we have taken into consideration some of the cutoff.
We made a stress test for the availability remuneration, because it's given by government decision via CAMESA, and giving a 50% cut in that remuneration. Our price target was $380. So, and the company has enough liquid reserve to withstand their debt service. So if the market doesn't
or it doesn't recover. If the market doesn't
this
recover,
year, you can withhold with the company because
the stable.
It has a stable cash.
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that one of the 4 pillars of this recommendation that you are giving is the transitory undervalued market.
Yes.
And then at the end of the presentation, you mentioned some of the things that you think will happen in the future with the new administration. What would be the key factor that you can select to say, well, this company will go from a $4 US price to a 7?
Yes. Well, the debt structure, I think that it's one of the main catalyzers that we think that is very important for our driver price to the target price that we need, because even in the model we consider that the current scenario is not normal, and it would have to go to a very normal place, and that with the debt restructure, the basic points of the, for example, country risk premium will come to its normal value. And we think that that would lead the company to increase, for example, all the projects that now, because of the distress, perhaps they are in a standby situation for new, not for the others that are currently operating.
In addition, we analyzed a previous debt restructure that shows that once the debt restructure takes place, the market tends to go back to a normal value.
Because it was all kind of trust, that all the unexpected results that lead to the market to that thing. Because even though that Argentina is very volatile country, this is a very crisis scenario, right?
Given this low the structure, we believe that we take it a correlation that this will compress the country risk premium, and this will benefit the company, leading the target price to our 7.1.
Can I ask you about this point and the relation with the WAP? How do you consider this?
Yes, for the WAP we made a mean reversion model. We use the Capian model, and we reached for a WAP of 22% with our current country risk premium, and we use for the long term the average of the country. Each scenario has this different speed to recovery, and
also we consider for the short term a cost of debt for a period that issued debt the last month.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you go deeper on related to the debt profile? You showed on one of the slides the debt maturities of the company that seems to be very short term,
Yes.
2020, 2021.
Yes.
How do you think the company is going to tackle that debt services in the next 2 years? It doesn't seem that the free cash flow of the company will be enough to cover that. How do you think that? Do you think there's a risk of having a credit situation for the company in the next 2 years?
In 2021, 170 million debt will mature. With our analysis and because of the launching of new thermal generations next years, the revenue will increase. We believe that the company would not have any problem covering debt, and even if the situation normalizes, for a rollover. In the evaluation here we can see that the free cash flow to the equity after paying debt it was positive because the debt corresponds to 60% of cash reserves that we project from 2021.
also it's important to notice that this free cash flow corresponds to our weighted scenario, so it is assuming a 25% cut in availability remuneration and also in energy service.
I have one more question. When you are in a very distressed situation that we are right now, the value approach on just evaluating these companies is very powerful. Do you have the opportunity to talk with the company? Have you seen any replacement cost? What is the market cap of the company in comparison with the replacement cost? It's just for not part of a presentation, just for curiosity or just to.
The company is under their book value, and also their market value.
Yes, the market cap is under its book value, under what?
And the book value is very well represented, because we have many times problems with this, because when you have the opportunity to talk with the company, you know how many megawatts of energy they are producing, and they know what is the marginal cost of producing one additional megawatts. That's why my question is, how deep in terms of replacement cost do you believe that we are with CFA right now?
Time is up.
Sorry.
Thank you.